He didn't get there.
Our houses were so small.
Yeah. Well, and I've got a manufacturer. I'm on Fort Clark Road.
Oh,
And I tried to, offer it up to, get warm, but nobody took up on it.
Good morning.
So I'm only 75%.
It was nice to see everybody come together. Out helping and.
95%.
I've never gone up to those commodities. I've never done that.
That's what I heard too.
And I thought about it, and
Here's a question.
on the allotment, because I gave it away. I mean, some of it
The
I kept.
one that was just the other.
Yeah.
It's 9:30, Thursday, February 25th. Calling the meeting to order. We have a quorum of 4. I'm going to ask the directors whether or not we wish to extend Robert Mummy's excused absence until he returns. Give a motion.
I make a motion to excuse.
Second it.
All in favor? He's doing very, very well. He's getting very antsy and ready to come back. He continues to follow up everything we're doing, continues to comment on all things. He gets board packets, and the only thing that he's not doing is having his physical person here. Okay, is there someone here that would like to lead the invocation? Okay, let's stand for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Will you pledge allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God and indivisible. One of these days, we're all going to agree on what the words are.
I doubt it.
Okay, the minutes. Has everyone had a chance to read the minutes? Any corrections? And, we have a motion to approve the minutes from January 20th, 2021.
So moved.
Second it.
All in favor? Okay, they've been approved, so they'll be posted. Okay, Secretary's report. And volunteering. To conclude, there have been a couple of questions about the number of absences that Robert's had. We've had a few emails concerning this. I just wanted to read that portion of the bylaws that governs this, so there's no mistakes, no misunderstanding of what the bylaws say. Page 8F, quote, any member of the board who is absent during any one annual term of office from 3 regular meetings without cause acceptable to the board may, at the discretion of a majority of the authorized number of directors, be removed from the board. His absences have been accepted as cause, and it's only 3 unexcused absences that the bylaws refer to. We got a letter from Kathy Warm. I wasn't sure to whom I should write, so I wrote you both the dispatch. This is by far the best means of letting Fort Clark people know what is happening. Even Bracketville uses it. Example, Tully, EMT, Fire Department, Hope, etc. I'm reading her handwriting, so I have known that many people here on the fort don't subscribe, but last week was the most enlightening. Many didn't know what MUD was expecting or asking people to shut their water off and the status of getting power. Cannot express the importance of getting more people to subscribe to the dispatch. If possible, I would suggest that you consider stressing this to those at this meeting and those watching the meeting this morning, if possible. Also, tell them to spread the word. Kathy Warren. Yes, our dispatch is very, very valuable. How many people is it reaching now?
About 1,400.
About 1,400. So if you aren't on dispatch, please contact Julie, and she will make sure you get on dispatch.
Yeah. Dispatch is not gonna spam your email inbox any worse than the 14,000 auto loan and warranty and all the other nonsense. It's a few dispatches a week and they're valuable.
Yes, that's how we try to reach out to everybody. And just like this recent power and water emergency, going door to door doesn't get enough people. So the dispatch is something that you really need to pay attention to, because that's how we're going to disseminate emergency information.
Can I make a statement?
Of course.
The one thing you have to understand is the dispatch will give as accurate of information as you can get. Facebook did not give accurate information or instructions. So therefore, when we get something from the dispatch, it's coming from either MUD, REA, or AEP. And we try to make it as accurate as possible. So, because there was some inaccurate information that went out that could have caused some problems.
Yes, please look to dispatch or contact Alan Peterson if you have questions, instead of just believing whatever you read out there. We're going to try to be accurate. Okay. All right, motion to approve the Secretary's report and reading of correspondence.
So move.
Second.
In favor? Okay. Treasurer's report, please, Bill.
January 2021. What is time flies? Net income before estimated bad debt and depreciation. For January, the net income loss was $22,298.53. Depreciation was $11,876.22. The bad debt expense was $22,791. And the net income before bad debt and depreciation was $12,368.69. Profit and loss for January. Total income, gross profit, $179,056.83. The expenses for January were $201,355.36, leaving us a net loss on paper $22,298.53. That is for January. And as far as I'm concerned, the monthly reports are going to fluctuate up and down because that's just the way business operates. The net results of where we are would actually come on the final audit from the auditors. The profit and loss from October through January, we had a gross profit of $852,366.06, and a net expenses were $870,006, even with the net income loss of $17,639.94. Los Morris's profit and loss there was a gross profit of $1,129.37. The total expenses were $1,259.83, which left us a loss of $130.46. People start drinking more beer at the Pearl Shop. I shouldn't have said that. Profit and loss for Los Morris from October through January was $3,979.82 was the gross profit. The total expenses were $4,587.02, with again a net loss of $607.20. The restricted fund. The income for January was $5,166. The expenses were $1,956.19 for a net income of $3,209.81. Restricted fund October through January. Total income was $20,736.80. Expenses $7,824.71 for an income of $12,912.09. And the cash as of February 25th. Texas Community Bank checking, $59,474.98. The credit card account, $153,511.97. Money market, $8,994.04. Bank and trust, Los Morris, $1,609.46. The restricted fund has $375,820.71. The general fund, $234,760.26. And the historical has $474.90. Bank balances. And that's the report.
I have a question. We didn't get the restricted fund breakdown this time as to the various, from Randy. Yeah, let him know. And a comment, the golf course was closed, obviously, several days in February, which has affected the bottom line. Although they tried to have some special events where they could sell beverages and snacks and things.
This is just for January, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, even for January, it's cold.
Yeah, the weather and the COVID is playing havoc with what we're doing.
Okay, any other questions or comments? May I have a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
Move to approve the treasurer's report.
A second. In favor? That's unanimous, last one. Okay, let's start with our executive officer, general manager report. Alan, you're up.
Going into a little bit more, what this is working, on the financials, there are two areas that are sort of a concern, and we knew as of end of December we were going to get hit because our cash cow ever since I've been here has been the pipeliners. Pipeliners in the motel and the pipeliners in the RV park has allowed us to make quite a bit more revenue than what we normally would see, especially the fact we have no marketing and no online reservations. The difference between December and January just in the motel is a 40% loss in revenue just because we lost the pipeliners. Now we have just received another group of pipeliners in that will be here for another couple months in the RV park, so that's sort of stationary and we're hanging in there. But the big areas that we're missing out, our real estate sales, we're not selling anything. And we sort of expected to be back online with that a little bit more. And the motel revenue. The motel revenue and the RV revenue not anywhere near what they normally would be. the loss of the pipeliners. So it's something we have to get back online and start getting tourism back in here. Some of the things that we have achieved since our time, and I probably should start off with thanking all the volunteers that we have had in the last month, especially during the snow bid crisis. You know, it started out when the first day when we lost power, everybody realized, and lost water, that nobody could flush their toilets. You know, so I got the call, and the Loftus family, I have to say, was on top of it before I was, because by the time I got to the spring, we were handling out 5-gallon buckets for everybody, and that went on all day long. By the end of that afternoon, Philip had procured the fire truck, and we could do it out of the fire truck. So we were filling up buckets of water for 3 days out of the fire truck. So the volunteers that helped that, I want to thank the fire department. It was a pretty unique thing watching everybody working together. Something I was pleased to see. Our maintenance department, and if anybody got the emergency calls, because we have a couple emergency numbers we have. I think the biggest surprise was, the biggest question was, will the trash be picked up? And that was on Monday. And we got it to Tuesday, and the trash was picked up. The guys got in here on the second day, so the maintenance crew did an outstanding job. And if you know what the security guys had to go through with all the dead deer that had to be picked up, because there were quite a few everywhere, underneath houses. And there were a lot of slip and falls, and pretty much for 2 days, we were doing welfare checks everywhere. So Philip and Matt, their guys did an outstanding job. We do not think we had any, we fared very well as far as damage. You know, we had pipes broken everywhere, small ones, not many real major things. I guess the one thing that is in question now is the case of the condition of our golf greens. And we will not really know that for another probably 2 weeks, just exactly if the freeze got to them or not. That could be a major issue. I've already talked to our insurance company on that. So we'll watch and see what comes back out. As regards to what we voted on last year, we've seen one billboard go up, and that would be on the east side. We never got around to doing the second one because the storm came in, and it's very hard to hold those billboards up with the wind. So it's waiting to get put up. Our electrician, in case, I know everybody in Unit 1 understands they have lights now. So the electrician we had doing all the lighting has fixed Unit 1. He has restored power to the fire station, and the entrance lights at the front of the fort are now working. The next thing he'll be working on are trying to get the pool lights on down there, which have been out for quite a while. The volunteers at the fire station have started working on their work area, and the two guys leading it, Clyde Westbrook and Warren Thompson, have been doing a great job organizing that, getting things set up. A lot of signs and painting have been worked on. In that case you've looked at, the gazebo and the bandstand have been restored, and they're in much better shape. They've trimmed the par 3 trees and cut down some of the dead ones, not all of them. And Saturday, and then also another volunteer group cleaned up Red Bridge Park. So there's been a lot of work. This next Saturday, we'll be meeting 9 o'clock in the morning in the Rendezvous Park in that area, working on cleaning that area up. Let's see what else is there. By popular demand, I will be holding a town hall next week for people that seem to want me to have a vision of where we're going to go and what my vision is. Both on Thursday evening at 6 o'clock at the Post Theater. And for people that can't make that, Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Try to reach every venue there, or all the different markets that are out there. People that are working can come Saturday, people that have time off can come Saturday, people that are working when it comes Friday. There are 2 times, and anybody can come. So I will pretty much outline what we've accomplished in the last 6 months and the different areas that we're addressing, and where we go from here. So that's it.
Is that Thursday, what, next week?
4th and the 6th.
Okay.
Sir, the name of the electrician?
I have no idea.
I just thought he has done so much, I just thought he ought to be recognized maybe.
Yeah, no, he was provided to us by Tim Ward, so that was where the name came from.
Oh,
I have to go look at the check and see who we made it out to.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board? We are working on getting our marketing restarted. Okay, let's see. We have committee reports. I have one, since we've been having very little response, I sent an email out to, well, actually it was on dispatch for the committees to make sure they start getting the reports into us. From the airport committee, there is nothing significant to report. COVID has paused all activity outside of member use. Until further notice, airport committee-sponsored activities such as open house events are on hold. Pilots will continue to monitor for airfield maintenance as it is required. This is from Stan Martin, the airport committee. From Phoebe at Architectural Committee. I won't be able to attend this month's board meeting, so the ARC report is below. Received about a dozen excuse me, permit requests over the last month, forwarded a variance to the board, working with security and MAP on a few CCNR violations. A reminder to get permits submitted by a deadline for next meeting's agenda and make sure to be as detailed as possible with photos, drawings, surveys, etc. Meetings are on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. in the boardroom unless no permit requests are received. That's from Phoebe Borwell. Fort Clark Golf Committee. The golf committee is working hard to get entries to sign up ahead of the tournament. We're talking about Los Morris. Down the amount of people in the pro shop. This has been done by only taking first 54 paid teams into the tournament, which is scheduled for March 20th and 21st, with a practice round on Friday the 19th. The committee is also looking for donations and sponsors for the tournament. Help us supply 2 $1,000 scholarships and also helps pay for the expenses to host the tournament. The committee will be setting up the yearly calendar for tournaments hosted by the committee. We host at the end of the month tournament, the last Saturday of the month. Excuse me. Most Mondays there's a twilight 9-hole scramble. Time is now at 3 p.m. To be announced, the Cajun Bash fundraiser tournament proceeds go into the golf course. Other potential tournaments not yet scheduled: Memorial Day, July 4th, Labor Day, November 6th, Turkey Shoot, Kris Kringle on December 11th. The committee will be talking about what items to focus on to enhance the course. Preservation.
No report, just waiting for the action item number 5.
Recycling.
Good morning. We shipped, excuse me, we shipped 19.5 tons of cardboard in December, and they gave us $90 a ton, which is great. And so we made $1,587 on that. January, we sent another shipment of our recyclables, but we don't know yet what we're usually winding up owing because of the $500 cost of the truck. So In summary, for 2020, Recycle made a total profit of $1,022 for 33 tons that we shipped. Compared to 2019, we shipped 38.5 tons, and we had to pay $118, again, because of the shipment. The cardboard that we sent in November, they gave us much less money. So compared to the $90 a ton that we got in 2020, it was almost half. So that's terrible. So looking at 5 years from 2016 to 2020, we shipped 214.5 tons. Our net income was $9,516. So that's great. And that's that. Any questions?
Well, keep up the good work.
Yeah,
Thank all your volunteers.
yeah, exactly. Okay.
Okay, is that it?
Yes,
Okay, Las Morris Restoration Project.
okay. Again, this is from our chair, Chris Hale. There's nothing new to report to the board. I suggest this as an update. Unfortunately, we don't have any progress to report this month. The engineering recommendations have been delayed due to some personal issues with the engineer doing the work. And the Texas Historical Commission is still studying about the Las Morris marker relocation. They're in agreement concerning the requested location, but because there's a small error in the text of the marker concerning one name on the marker, Mr. Howard, they're contemplating possibly replacing the marker. So, that's it. Questions, comments? No.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
As far as the election committee, all of the ballots have gone out. So the election committee, I guess we need a motion to disband the election committee for this election cycle.
I'll move to disband the election committee for this election cycle.
Second,
Second.
all in favor? Okay. The election committee is excused. And thank you, you did an excellent job this year. Got everything out on time. So far, we've had just a couple of complaints about a bios sheets not being in there, I think only 2. And having been the chairman of that committee at one time, that's extraordinarily well done, committee. Thank you very much.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
When we have good addresses, obviously, and we mail them, if they're returned undeliverable, they would go to Eagle Pass. Has that ever happened? I mean, do we get undeliverable
Oh,
ballots?
yes.
And then what happens? Do we
We pick them up and bring them back and
try to find the...
unopened. Yeah, most of the time it's the same people all the time that we have been able to find, and according to state law, as long as they have a deed. And we do not have the deed. We consider them still property owners.
So those are just maintained
Yeah,
until the election is over? Okay. Thank you. I just
you're welcome. Okay, Bylaws Committee.
Travis Huey. I think last meeting, there was a difference in opinion on the presentation of the document that was given. The Bylaws Committee looked at what the recommendations were in the last meeting with the board. And during that research, we found a section on the Texas State Law Library, which I think you all received the presentation, that denotes where that is laid out on the website. And until we address that piece of the document, then the other changes, I mean, they may be mute. You may not be able to vote on them anyways if that is actually inconsistent with the state law. That's kind of an update from last week.
I do kind of have a question,
Yes.
on the 209, because it says if the declaration contains a lower percentage than the 67%,
Mhm.
then you can use what's on the declaration.
Mhm.
Well, the declaration says it's majority, so there's a different, there's plurality, which is in the bylaws, and there's majority in the declarations, which means this has to be barely above 50%.
Mhm.
So when I noticed when I got my ballot, that they went to 20967, even though our declarations state that it could be a majority, which is only 50%.
Mhm.
When y'all were reviewing to do the bylaws, because like I said, then the next part is declaration says majority, bylaws when it comes to the vote is plurality, which is better, because then you don't have to at least have 50% of the cast. But I'm just curious, and I don't think that this may be more of the board, why we're stuck with the 67% on the 209.
That is directly from when we rewrote both the declaration and the bylaws.
Mhm.
And the attorney addressed this specifically, that you cannot say just majority, it has to be stated in a percentage. So the declaration to be less has to be stated at 51%, 60%, 55, or whatever, not just majority.
But the definition of majority
I
is
know,
more than
I-
50%.
I didn't write the law, the legislature did, and that's what the attorney told us.
I know what I'm saying is we're
I
still,
understand what you're saying.
no, what I'm saying is that we don't have to have the 67%, because our declarations say we only need a little bit above 50%.
The declaration has to say 50% or 51%, not majority.
Like I said, if you look at the word, what does majority mean? In other words, majority, the number of votes needs to be more than half, 50%. I don't understand why we have to see the actual word
Because,
50%.
when we wrote this, that is because that is what our attorney told us. None of us are attorneys,
But
right?
majority means
That's
50.9,
that's
not
what,
67%.
I'm not gonna argue about something that an attorney gave us instructions on. We
This
could, I would
is not-
suggest,
This is the attorney.
The attorney said that we would have to have a specific percentage in the declaration to be lower than the 67%, which means have to say majority of 51% or 55 or whatever you're going.
So why did y'all put a percentage in it when y'all redid the declaration?
I don't remember, the attorney cleared it, and that's what it was. Now, we can, if you like, we can incur fairly small attorney fees.
Well, I'm curious how the rest of the board reads it on here, because like I said, they did a lot of research on 209, so we're looking at Texas law, which does kind of trump, and our declarations does have a discrepancy. I mean, 67%, I mean, 50% is hard to get also, but it's a little bit more reachable than 67, and our declaration says majority, which majority is.
My suggestion would be we send it over to our attorney, have him make a new comment on it, and there have been some changes in the law.
Well, then, do you have a discrepancy when the declaration says majority and the bylaws say says?
That's what I said, let's just send it over and have him take a look at it.
What is it, what is your?
I'm not a lawyer, but I have a question. Does it say 67% of the ballots or
Yes,
okay, ballots
67%
mailed out or
legitimate
67?
ballots received,
Yes,
not
votes,
what we mail out.
Okay, that's my question. So 67% of if 800 people sent back ballots, we would only have to be concerned about a passage or denial or veto of 67% of those.
Right, so there's some very neatly clipped things in these, which we'll get to when we get to this action item. But the reason that part of 209 makes exceptions to this is because the part that's in here from the law library But this part of section 209 says, cannot require the approval of more than 67% of the lots. And it goes on to say, if the bylaws don't specify how many votes are required, the amendment may pass with 67% of the votes allotted to lot owners. That's not votes received. That's votes allotted. We don't get 67% of the vote ever here, ever.
I know, that's why I'm asking if it's of the votes received.
Yeah. So, we're talking at cross purposes here, because he's here to represent the Bylaws Committee. We're getting into the declaration a little bit, so I think we need to like pick a lane and run in it for a minute.
But declarations trumps bylaws, so if we pass that and if our declarations are not working with the bylaws, then we're back to no man's land.
It's the other way around, bylaws have to work with the declaration.
That's what,
That's why I said, none of us are attorneys, fully admit, none of you guys are attorneys.
That's correct.
I think that we just need to, because both the declaration and the bylaws are dedicatory instruments, and rather than guess, get it wrong, we just simply ask the right question of the attorney.
I just think this is a lot of work that a lot of volunteers did, and 67% is gonna, I mean, basically, what's even the point of sending it out?
That is the danger in acting without getting the opinion of an attorney, because you can really back yourself into a situation where we can't operate. As Dustin pointed out, we don't get 67%. If we don't do this the right way, we could back ourselves into a corner where we can't do anything.
Absolutely.
So what we
I
need to do, in the major suggestion from the committee, is with these findings, and in my experience in dealing with attorneys, because thankfully I'm not one, we go and ask a very specific question as I presented in the SNPs, and ask very specifically, what is the, how do you view this? And that way it's not, can you review our bylaws for
Right.
a definition between declaration? We're gonna give them specifically, and the committee would be very happy to put it together, give it to y'all. You can review it and then send it off to the attorney, because we have been going through the document, so we'd be happy to do that.
Okay. Well, we have all your information, I think we probably have what we need, and
Okay.
it would have to be a very specific, limited question, because
Right.
we don't want to spend attorney fees that are not necessary
Absolutely.
to do.
So if you do need more, and if you guys start kicking it around and it's like, well, we think we need to add more stuff, please come back to us, and we're happy to go back and add more to the presentation, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Okay, community council report?
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say, I think we probably could make the Guinness Book of World Records, because if you attended our meeting last Saturday, it took all of 5 minutes. We were good. But that being said, okay, don't have too much to report though, but I would like to read a letter, please. It's a good one. Fort Clark Springs Association Board. Dear Board, Fort Clark Springs Community Council has sponsored many candidates forum in the past. We think it valuable that the forum is presented to Fort Clark Springs voting members so they may ask questions, express their concerns, and get to know the candidates. Fort Clark Springs Community Council expresses their gratitude to the board for supporting this very important venue. We are very appreciative to the candidates for attending this event, for answering questions posed to them, for stating their positions on various topics, and for taking time to meet the voters and talk to them one-on-one after the meeting. We thank Allison Watkinson for taking time to moderate this discussion. We thank David Loftus for helping with the sound equipment. We also thank the audience for attending this forum despite the cold weather and for wanting to understand what each candidate's position was on various topics. Once again, we thank the board for approving this event. Sincerely yours, Kathleen Moore, Secretary, Community Council. And I will give this to you for your file. Okay, public announcement. Next meeting is March 13th at the boardroom at 10 p.m. And remember, All lot owners are members of community council, and all are invited to attend all meetings and express their concerns, which community council will pass on to the Fort Springs Board. Thank you.
You
Did
said
you say 10 p.m.?
Did I say 10 p.m.? Damn those martinis. I didn't type it up. I have AM.
Okay.
Well, I don't have my glasses on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
People
Thank you.
watching on YouTube are gonna.
Kathy, question?
I don't do YouTube.
Kathy, question, was that recorded and broadcast?
Oh, yes, it was. Everything was, okay.
Is that still available?
I don't know, it's on our website though. It should be
Well,
on the
I spent a half
website.
hour and I couldn't find it, but that's normal for me. But I mean,
We
where
had-
where would we discover it?
We had the audience. We also had HMs stand outside and take questions if you did not want to come in. And then we also had it on
Community
Facebook and
Council?
YouTube.
Okay.
Our meetings are also recorded. Okay, thank you again.
Okay, any comments on community council report except 10 p.m.? Okay, we have no unfinished business, and we took no email votes. Discussion item, this is, Travis requested this be placed on the agenda. It's a discussion item at this point. Just to let people, give people a little bit of history. Several years ago, we, about 10, 20 people got together. Guys got together, mostly from the golf course. They actually installed a composting area over by maintenance. Dropped in huge posts and everything. We started placing stuff in there, turning it, there's water over there, and we ran out of volunteers to keep that thing going. Because it does take time and takes someone who knows what they're doing to keep your compost pile alive and working. So we do have a facility over there for it, and I talked briefly with Alan about it, and I'd like his opinion on what do you think about a composting site.
Excuse me, before you start, can you read what Travis wrote?
No, I don't have, he just asked to have it put on
Oh, I have it here.
the, you can read that.
Says, Board of Directors, please consider forming a committee to explore composting on the fort. This effort will require cooperation by fort management, staff, and the members. I would like to form a committee to report to the board on the resources needed, available assets, potential uses, logistics, revenues, and expenses. That's what we're talking about.
Right. I hadn't gotten that far yet, but thank you. I was just asking Alan, because he would have to deal with the daily operations and staff needed to assist with this. Your thoughts?
I think it's worth our effort. I've talked to some of the people involved in it last time, and they told me some of the pitfalls they ran into. So, you know, it's a matter of we drop back, punt, and start it over again, see what we do.
What were their concerns?
Water over there.
Where do they want to put it?
They suggested out on the golf course somewhere, which, if anything, I would say that would be the best, if you would do it that way, where the driving range is.
What about,
That's a possibility, but I think, yeah, I didn't see a problem with where it was.
where is it?
It's down in the.
Behind the wall
yard.
on maintenance.
What about, because volunteers are going to be helping with this, or is it going to be staff?
No, it's gonna be volunteers.
So what about what about in the recycling center? Because there's water there, and it's
It's
closed, and it would be open.
That's a possibility. That's what a committee will come up with. So, you know, we form a committee to do that, that'd be great.
Rustin, comment?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. There's obviously interest in it, so as long as we can get volunteers to maintain it, I think somewhere fenced would be good. So I would hate for the volunteers to go around collecting all the refuse and coffee grounds and produce and leaves and everything else and keep it all watered and turned and make beautiful compost, and then some random feller comes by with a wheelbarrow and they had no part in any of it, and find some free compost laying around. That would be unfortunate.
Yeah,
Well, I think the committee would be great.
I agree. My suggestion would be that those that have some expertise with this, and perhaps some of the garden club members may have some expertise with this. Julie, if you could put a request in dispatch for volunteers for a composting committee. And then you can sign up by sending your name to FCSA@fortclark.com. And that way we can do that. We don't have to wait for a board meeting or anything.
I would like to think that there's provision to make committees answerable to the GM. So that, yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of committees, and there's a lot of interest out there to form a committee for just about everything under the sun, which I'm not opposed to. If people want to volunteer to help improve life in this community, I'm all for it, but having to come to a board meeting every month is something different than, you know, if so many of these committees could just get with Alan and say, here's what we're doing, it's working great, and he can email the board and say, hey, this is working great, or it's not working out, and then the future boards can take it from there. I think there's a line there that we can tell you.
Yes, not every committee needs to be a board sanction committee. Activity and special event committees do not need to do that. And that would be, Alan, if you were willing, we would have the people who volunteered for the composting committee report to you and progress. You can coordinate your people with their people.
Well, I think we appoint the committee and we dissolve committees, but in between, and then you would just have correspondence with your board. So that way, you know, I mean, right? Because I mean, because I'm trying to think, I don't want to get anybody in trouble. I can't remember what it says about bylaws.
Logistically, I think
Most of the work in HOAs is done by committees.
right.
Right.
Yeah, the board members are not the employees of the board. Y'all don't have to do active operations all the time, but the committees are the ones that sort of steer the special interest areas, and that should go through and basically work with me also.
Yeah, I think logistically it works better because they can interact with you as needed.
Right.
Hey, the water's out over here, or, you know, can we borrow this piece of equipment from maintenance to help turn this, or whatever it is, instead of having to wait a month to come to the board meeting and say, Mother, may I?
Well, the committees can do research that I don't have the time for, and
Right.
I don't need to be doing. So they can do the research and then follow that over, that's what they're supposed to be doing.
Right, and you can include their report in your report monthly at the board meeting. So this would be more of a special projects committee rather than a sanction committee, which are usually just the same committees, our sanction committees.
Right. I'm not opposed to the membership getting together and forming committees to do whatever, you know, as long as it's not a huge drain on Fort resources. The membership should be able to get together, ask the GM of the Fort, do you mind if we use this space here for whatever? If he doesn't think so, he can get with the board and the board can decide, but a lot of this day-to-day stuff can be handled among the membership.
We hired Alan to do the daily operations of the fort. We do not intend to micromanage him, and I think this is one of those areas where this is a special projects committee, but this is the easiest way to get committee members is to have them reply to FCSA@fortclark.com, and Julie will send out a brief asking for volunteers for composting. So if you are interested, please do. Anybody? Yeah, any other comments here first?
No, I'm okay with that.
Okay, time for three for
Sandy?
three.
Could I make a comment, please?
Yes.
I was president of the men's club when we established the composting And some of the problems we had is volunteers cannot handle this. The advantage to the fort, obviously, is we now bring our leaves here rather than spending a half an hour taking them to the dump site. We want our grass also in this compost. We want the horse manure in this compost. And then we need water, and we need a lot of water. The water over at the existing place we had to put a pipe underneath the road, and we were using city water, which is expensive. We don't need city water. What we need is when they water the golf course, we need to soak this compost pile. And then volunteers, unfortunately, a lot of us leave in the summer. And then you have nobody here, so this project's got to be set up where it can be maintained primarily with existing staff. And it's what you spend now taking that compost a half mile, or 4 or 5 miles away through gates. If you do it right here, you're going to have that additional time to handle that. You soak it, you've got cloth to cover it, you put a soaker hose on top, and it's got to be turned, we've got equipment that was already furnished which tells you the internal temperature. And when that has gotten warm enough, then you can turn it maybe once or twice a year, and that takes heavy equipment. But the advantage, I think, is going to be it's here rather than there. You're going to save time driving there, so you're going to have the time to do it. And members or volunteers are not going to get the job done that you need to have done. They can help you, and we're more than happy to. But we have the wrong type of equipment, and if you get a large piece of equipment there, which Alan already needs to run some of the brush and stuff through, this can all go into the compost pile. But don't expect the committee to put together something that's going to work. It's not going to happen. You're going to have to buy into this thing, but it's going to be to everybody's advantage. The golf course primarily, but anybody here that wants some or any place a fort where you want to cover rocks with grass and that's where you're going to get it from. And it's going to take probably a minimum of 1 year or maybe 2 years before this compost is going to be available to use, depending upon the amount of water. Just as a thought, and I'd be more than happy to sit in on the committee.
Correct about Alan, because Alan, because we're encouraging now on maintenance and their lawn care, so you would just need to make sure that we have the time and the manpower, so it's all yours. Yes.
Yeah, if it's too big a lift, then it's too big a lift, but I would be very careful about the golf course and where we put it on the golf course, because you're gonna have traffic going in and out of it. People wanna go check on it. When it starts getting dry, then people are driving off the paths and, you know,
The
tearing up what
ideal
little native cover
location
we've
for
got.
this is between number 7 green and number 7 green and number 8 fairway. There's a hole in there already where they bring in brush and stuff, and it sits there, and a lot of times there's standing water in there. And I think that'd be the ideal spot to start with.
Yeah,
Right by the
Lake,
maintenance.
outside of the oaks.
Thank you, Dick. Dick, in fact, it would probably be very helpful if you signed up to volunteer so you can share the information.
I'd be more than happy to. I don't want to chair the committee. I'm not here, and my health's not all that great, but
That's okay, you can tell the committee what you want and what you don't want. Okay.
You could come up with the plan.
Yeah,
volunteer.
we just need your expertise because you had the history on, you worked on it. Any comments? Do you think this needs a vote?
No.
No. Okay. All right, we're going to establish a committee. All right. Okay, the next, also from Travis, is on the solar eclipse. Kind of brushed on it last month, but this is the same type of issue as the composting. This is a special projects committee. Now there'll be someone that, again, needs to work with Alan and his crew as to what you want to do. Certain types of things that Alan's going to be responsible, like using local resources like law enforcement and so forth, but we want to keep our visitors entertained while they're here for this short 5-minute eclipse or whatever. But I agree, it would be nice to have a committee who's willing to go out there and do some research, come up with some events, and so forth. Dustin?
I mean, I like it. It's 3 years away, but it is gonna be a big deal. It is gonna be a big thing for where we're at, for Brackett and for the fort. So this is one area where I think, like composting, I think maybe we're piling on to Alan a little bit, kind of throwing that into his court. But this one, I think, done properly, this committee can really help take a lot of burden off of the GM and the fort staff when it comes to planning this. There's gonna be a lot of research that needs done, a lot of contacting, you know, we get vendors out here. It's a long way away. I don't think necessarily the committee, they need to work through Alan on vendors and things like that. I would respectfully request, I will not be a board member when this takes place any longer, but I would respectfully request that they allow Alan the direct interaction with local government partners outside this fence, the county, the sheriff's office, EMS, you know, government partners, things of that nature. But there's gonna be a lot of lifting that needs to be done, and a well-done committee, I think, will take a lot of burden off of Mr. Peterson and his staff.
Deanna? Bill?
I would maybe suggest that the existing committees that we have on the fort already, that somebody from each committee be put on this new committee so that they can, everybody would then be coordinating what's available and needs to be done.
It's not a terrible idea. I don't think we need to turn it into a mega committee. I think the core Eclipse committee should be probably comprised of people who are passionate about that sort of thing, but I do agree that community council and the other volunteer committees should be involved, because they're gonna have contacts outside. Like the community council has more vendor contacts than you could fill a phone book with. That'll be helpful, and, you know, get everybody rowing in the same direction. I think we can make it a good event.
Yeah, because we're gonna bring, there are gonna be a lot of people in this part of Texas. It's very rural, ranchers are gonna love it. I think I would greatly appreciate it if community council would take some sort of a major participation in this, because they're very good at large events. But that would be, of course, up to them. So if there are more comments from the board, we'll take comments from the floor. Travis?
So thank you for considering this, and I do want to echo a couple of things that you guys have already said. So it is going to take a lot of buy-in from the different committees. So there's a place for each and every committee, because I think that over time, when we start to bring people in, not only is this an event that can be a revenue stream for the current, you know, in 2024, we'll call that current, even though it's 3 years away, but there's going to be a lot of aspects of the fort, much like Fort Clark days, where we can sell a lifestyle here. And so we've got to show that we've got a garden club, that we have an arts council, that we have all these different things, so they very much will need to be involved. As far as putting things together, we're a little behind. So the counties in the path of the eclipse are well ahead of us, 6 months ahead of us. So we do have some catching up to do. We are in a unique position because we have better weather and we're more rural. So getting out in front of this is going to be key. I've talked to several different groups on the fort already. There's a lot of interest in getting this done. I've also reached out to an event planner that has knowledge of the fort, 25 years worth of knowledge of the fort, understands what an event can do. She's put together large events, over 6,000 people, 10,000 people. So one thing that we haven't heard yet that we really need is not only buy-in from the board, management, but the biggest hurdle I think that we have going forward, and we need to start working on this now, is membership buy-in. We have to understand as a committee what kind of package do we want to put together to take to management